There's no shortage of landfill space today in the United States. If all the solid waste for the next 1,000 years were put into a single space, it would only take up 44 miles of landfill, a mere 0.01% of the entire U.S. landscape. I know that many of you have been bombarded with pro-recycling propaganda for most of your life. I hope that you can open yourself up to the new concept I'm going to be talking about today of reusing and conserving rather than recycling, a concept that usually isn't supported. I have been recycling for years, and when I really began to think about it, it seemed like it really did more harm than good. I began to think, why not just conserve and reuse? Doesn't that make more sense? This is why you should get rid of those big red recycling bins outside of your house and begin to focus more on conserving and reusing, because that is what will truly help the environment. I'll explain to you why recycling newspaper really does more harm than good, why recycling really does not save energy, and why recycling just really isn't that economically viable. Some people believe that recycling newspaper is one of the most important things to do for the environment, but this is a misunderstood concept. They are not told that the recycling process itself generates quite a great deal of pollution. First of all, recycling really does not save trees. A recycling newspaper does not save trees, since companies that produce paper have their own farms where they grow trees solely for paper production. Pristine and untouched forests are not used in the paper production, according to Petrie's article in 2008, Rethinking Recycling. It is also true that recycling newspaper requires old ink to be bleached from the pages. This is a chemically intensive process that generates large amounts of toxic waste, as opposed to the benign waste that result from simply throwing the papers away, according to the Petrie article. Instead of newspapers, just use online sources for news, as they are much more economically and environmentally friendly, and they reinforce the idea of conserving and reusing rather than recycling. Another myth is that recycling saves energy. But the power saved by recycling is voided because of the power it takes to recycle. The power used to recycle products makes the benefits from recycling null. The energy used to separate plastics and magazines proves to be inefficient and extremely time-consuming. Magazines especially contain too much foreign debris, which often gets a whole load of recycling rejected, wasting much time and effort. Extracting the recyclable material from these products proves to do a great deal of harm and waste a great deal of time. The energy and greenhouse gases that are, the energy used in the greenhouse gases that are emitted from the recycling process really just make it essentially a huge waste of time, because all we are doing is putting things in different piles before we throw them into landfills, because they can't be recycled. Recycling also means more trucks on the road to pick up large amounts of recyclables at the curbside, wasting a great deal of energy and putting more pollutants into the air. Due to mandatory recycling in New York, the city had to make 2 additional pickups per week, and Los Angeles had to double its fleet of trucks, which doubled the energy used to power those trucks and doubled the pollution that those trucks put out in the air, according to the 1995 article, The Other Side of Recycling. Not only does recycling hurt the environment, it also hurts the economy and your wallet. Recycling just really isn't even that economical of a process. Some people believe that by using recycled products, they're saving money. But if examined closely, this proves to be quite inaccurate. Recycled products do tend to be somewhat less expensive on the store shelves, but retail cost does not always tell the whole story. For example, if New Yorkers had simply thrown away all of their garbage instead of recycling their paper and washing out their bottles and cans during the last 7 years, the city would have saved an estimated $500 million. The savings could have been used to build a dozen new schools, or put $15,000 worth of computers and equipment into existing classrooms. It might have been used to increase the park department's operating budget by almost 50% last year, according to Elisa's article, The Real Market of Recycling, in 2009. Quite often, recycling programs are paid for by taxpayers, and once your local recycler collects your trash and processes it, he sells it to whichever company will make retail products out of these recyclables. So when you see a roll of recycled toilet paper on the shelf for 50 cents less than the fresh paper, it doesn't always tell the whole story, as you have paid to make the recycling process a reality. Remember also that your tax dollars also become a part of the employees who recycle the products from these government programs. Recycling is not always the right answer for the purposes of helping the environment. We must focus more on conserving and reusing instead. So before you take your next load of recycling out to the curb, double check to see if there is anything that can be reused. We should not be focused on recycling, as it perpetuates the problem. Instead, we must look towards conserving and reusing. Recycling is primarily a political decision rather than an economical or technical one. We need to think put more emphasis on conserving and reusing rather than recycling. So when we take showers, we need to use less water. When we use paper, we need to use both sides. We need to stop being such a wasteful society and move towards conservation as a solution rather than recycling. So the next time you find yourself recycling, think reuse instead.